I welcome the opportunity to speak on the patent referendum legislation that's before us here today. Now, Las Concorla, I listened to your comment when you came into the House initially, and you're quite correct in relation to that. I have a young man in the gallery here, Dara O'Sullivan, and I was trying to explain to him what a patent actually is, and I think it is important that we don't take these issues for granted and that we do make an effort to explain to people what we're talking about here. And the reality is that a patent confers upon the holder for a limited period of time the right to exclude others from exploiting that particular invention. And that exploitation could be in making that invention, using it, selling it, or importing that particular invention, except without the consent of the owner of the patent itself. And the patent is effectively a form of industrial property which can be then assigned or transferred or licensed or used by the owner. And in order for an invention to be patented, it must be novel, it must be unique, it must involve some type of an inventive step and be susceptible to industrial application, that it can be used in industry. And I suppose here in Ireland, most of the patents here are involved either in software, and you know, in my own hometown of Athlone, we have Ericsson, who has a massive number of patents there. In fact, when you go into the plant in Athlone, there is a whole wall of the registered patents and the staff there that had those registered. And also then in the whole pharmaceutical area, and something that I'll return to in a few minutes. But patents are set down by territory, meaning that a patent granted in Ireland by the Intellectual Property Office based in Kilkenny is only valid here in Ireland. And the objective behind this particular referendum is to establish a unified patent protection system that is applicable across the EU member states that sign up to this. And it will mean that an inventor can access a new single patent that provides uniform protection across those member states and has access to a single court to enforce that, rather than having to go to individual courts in different parts of Europe. So at the moment, if someone comes up with a novel, a new idea, a new drug, a new piece of software, or a new agricultural invention, currently they have to go country by country getting their patent actually registered. And this in particular is a big barrier to small Irish companies doing that. And we see right across this country a huge level of innovation, particularly in the agri-tech area. And the last thing we want is a situation that we come up with something novel and innovative here, and then it's replicated in some other part of Europe or some other part of the world. And you know, the one that comes to mind is McHale, which is a big agricultural engineering company in the west of Ireland, exporting all over Europe and all over the world their particular balers and different equipment, which could be undermined if they didn't have the capacity to register their particular type of baler. And that's what we're talking about, is giving the opportunity not just to the big multinational companies, but to small local companies or individuals with a good idea to be able to do that in a streamlined process at reduced cost, and having a simplified court system then to actually see that enforced. Now, the estimates are that this could benefit the Irish economy to an annual value of about €1.6 billion. And IBEC estimates that having the current patent system means that it costs an individual or a small business somewhere between €7,000 and €15,000 in terms of translation costs and other costs to actually register a patent at the moment. And that's before they have to go and actually enforce it if someone tries to replicate their idea. And of course then they're involved in courts in different parts of Europe, the time and the cost that's involved in that. And what we want to see is a single system across Europe, and will hopefully drive the innovation economy here in Ireland. It will support many innovators and small businesses in actually registering their ideas. Now, one of the criticisms that has been made of this particular unified patent system is that it's not going to benefit small businesses, that it's mainly for big business, and that the vast majority of small businesses across Europe don't have patents. However, we're different here in Ireland. We actually have a lot of small businesses that do have their own patents, and a survey that was done of business in this country showed that 80% of companies have patents at the moment. And the companies that don't have said that it's the high cost and bureaucracy that is there at the moment is stopping them registering some of their innovative ideas. And over 80% of small businesses and micro businesses around this country have said that they are very likely to increase the number of patents that they will register under this new system. So while across Europe as a whole there may not be a benefit for small and micro businesses, here in Ireland we have a huge opportunity in terms of our local businesses to actually exploit this particular piece of legislation if it is enacted in our constitution. And I think we do need to take a proactive approach in relation to this particular referendum, because Ireland has a very prominent role in the life sciences and in the pharmaceutical sector globally. And nearly 90% of the employees in those companies here in Ireland are engaged in medicines that are actually patented at present. And those employees are dependent on having access to those protected patents, and having a unified European-wide approach in relation to it provides us with a far greater opportunity than has been the case heretofore. And I think because of that, it is important that we make an effort to get out there and explain to people exactly what we're trying to do. And I think there's a responsibility on every company in this country that holds patents to actually explain to their employees the impact of this, and ask their employees to explain to their families and their neighbours the significance of the passing of this particular legislation, this particular referendum, because we cannot take this for granted. We should not take it for granted, and there's a responsibility on all of us to explain it to the public. Because if Ireland were not to ratify it, Irish companies would have to go cap in hand, travelling right around Europe, going to huge cost to try and protect their own intellectual property, their own innovative idea that they have come up with, and to ensure that no one else actually copies it anywhere else in Europe. And I think because of that, we do need to ensure that we have an effective campaign and that we explain to people why this is so important. For me, one of the reasons that I believe this is so important, and we're here on the most opportune day to discuss it, and that is today is the rarest day of the year, the 29th of February. Happens once every 4 years. And of course it is also International Rare Disease Day. And we have 1 in 17 people in this country with a rare disease. A lot of them are dependent on what's called orphan drugs. Small amounts of drug being manufactured for small number of patients across the globe. But they are the medications and treatments that they're dependent on to live, to function, and to be able to walk around in our communities right around this country. Now, Minister, you were with me last Monday in our own biopharma cluster in Monksland in South Roscommon. We're in Jazz Pharmaceuticals, where they are involved in manufacturing orphan drugs, small volumes of drug for very small patient cohorts around the globe. A lot of the research and development is being enhanced and developed here in Ireland and in Athlone. And those jobs and that operation is under jeopardy if we didn't have a robust patent system. Across the road from it is Alexion, another rare disease company, and again, they're dependent on this. But it's not just these companies that are dependent on it. It's the 1 in 17 people with a rare disease around this country and their peers around the globe who are dependent on this as well. And that's why it's important for them that these protections are actually enshrined in our Constitution. Minister, before I finish, I want to bring up one broader issue in relation to patents, which I think is something that Ireland as a country should take on. And I hope, on foot of today's discussion, that you will look into that. Minister, I have the honour to co-chair the Interparliamentary Union Science for Peace School. And the Science for Peace School uses science and some of its collaboration and operational models to bring legislators, members of Parliament closer together, tasking them with trying to solve regional problems on pivotal transboundary issues, one of which is the issue of water that we've been looking at, and using science as a neutral umbrella. So we're taking parliamentarians from around the world in regions that have been traditionally in conflict, bringing them together under the neutral umbrella of science, offering parliamentarians and parliamentary staff the capacity building, empowerment training, and developing their evidence-based decision-making skills. And it is a really innovative approach that we're taking in relation to this. And we had last September a Science for Peace school focused on the issue of water, where we brought members of Parliament, parliamentary staff, scientists, water experts, researchers and other stakeholders from different sectors from all across the globe together. And we engaged in constructive dialogue, knowledge exchange, partnership building, with a view to developing effective strategies and policies to try and ensure that we can share out water better, but also develop new resources, water resources as well. Now, that parliamentary meeting last September identified a number of areas where we could see global cooperation. And one of those was in the area of expired water patents. Now, there are every single year some 5 to 7 million patents that lapse, or products that go off patent. But there is actually no way of knowing what those technologies are. There's no unified system, there's no central database, and once they lapse, that's it. They evaporate into thin air. Now, a lot of these are very innovative ideas. They're off patent, which means they can be easily utilised in different parts of the world. One of the primary objectives we have in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals is that every single being on this planet has access to clean water and sanitation. And there are an abundance of technologies out there that can do that, that are off patent, and yet no one knows about them. So one of the recommendations that the Science for Peace School made was to create a repository on water solutions and best practices, including patents that have now lapsed, to provide a comprehensive knowledge base that could actually be used and accessible in developing countries and in developed countries for that matter, in terms of addressing unique or challenging water problems. Now, this is just in one area that we're focused on the area of water. This could equally be applied elsewhere. But let's start with one route on it. This is an international group of people that have said this is an opportunity here to actually achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, to actually reduce conflict in regions of the world where there are problems with water resources, by actually using the knowledge base that is already there, that has already been developed, but is effectively and literally going down the drain, and no one knows what knowledge is there or what could be utilised or applied in different parts of the world. And I'd ask you, Minister, to look into this. And this isn't just me saying this, because we've all signed up to the WTO, the World Trade Organization, agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS. And Article 66.2 specifically addresses this issue of the facilitation of knowledge transfer and ensure that there is a responsibility on those that hold that knowledge to actually facilitate its transfer, particularly to the developing world. And the TRIPS agreement sets out that these patents should be, without discrimination, be made available and be applicable in different parts of the world where they could actually benefit individuals. Now, that requires two things to happen, Minister. One, there needs to be a flexibility in terms of supporting a viable technology base in some of these developing countries, because they just don't have the capacity in terms of it. You can give them the solution, but if they don't have the capacity to actually unlock that patent, utilise that patent and apply it on the ground, then it's of no use to them. And I believe there's a responsibility on us here in Ireland and our colleagues that are part of this patent agreement now, to actually work with some of the least developed countries in the world, to give them the capacity to utilise some of the patents that are being registered as a result of this legislation and hopefully referendum in June. So we're not only looking at our own indigenous economy, but we're looking at rising all boats, giving everyone an opportunity, regardless of where they live, to benefit from this particular system. And the second thing is, Minister, that there are no clear incentives there to facilitate this knowledge transfer presently. Now, this is a global agreement, and it's there and it's gathering dust. We're not utilising it at all, even though there is a responsibility on those countries that hold these patents to facilitate their transfer to the developing nations. But if they don't have the capacity and they don't have the knowledge about it, then they're never going to be able to utilise them. So let's ensure that right across the member states that are bringing this legislation and this unified patent system into force, that we actually share that knowledge and that we work with developing countries so that they can facilitating them to utilise that knowledge to benefit their citizens and benefit citizens across this planet equally. Gar míle maith agad.